In the world of construction, mining, and massive infrastructure projects, there's one name that has become almost impossible to ignore. If you've ever seen a bulldozer clearing a path, an excavator digging deep into the earth, or even a generator powering a remote disaster site, chances are you've seen their work. This is Caterpillar Inc., the undisputed king of heavy machinery. With over a century of history, operations in nearly every country on the planet, and close to 40% of the entire global heavy machinery market, Caterpillar has grown from a small family-run wheel business to a global empire. But their journey hasn't been smooth. It's a story filled with innovation, brutal rivalries, reinvention during hard times, and controversies that still follow them today. So how did Caterpillar become one of the most recognizable industrial brands in history? Let's dive deep into the story. The story begins in 1849, when Benjamin Holt was born in Concord, New Hampshire. Growing up in a family that ran a sawmill, Holt was surrounded by the mechanics of industry from the very beginning. His childhood wasn't one of luxury, it was one of hard work, problem-solving, and learning how machines could change the way people lived. But tragedy struck early. When Holt's parents passed away, he and his brothers decided to move westward, chasing new opportunities in California. In 1883, they founded the Stockton Wheel Company, a small but innovative business that focused on building durable wooden wheels for wagons. The western climate was tough on equipment. Wooden wheels would dry out, crack, and become unusable under the blazing California sun. The Holt brothers developed a technique to treat and preserve wood, making their wheels far more reliable than the competition. It may not sound revolutionary today, but back then, it was a game changer. Farmers and businesses trusted their wheels to last longer and perform better. The company quickly grew, employing around 25 workers and securing $65,000 in investment, a serious amount of money in the late 1800s. But for Benjamin Holt, the wheel business wasn't enough. He had bigger ideas. By the 1890s, Holt had turned his attention to one of the biggest challenges in agriculture: tractors. At the time, steam-powered traction engines were becoming popular. They were powerful, but they had one fatal flaw. They were just too heavy. On soft soil, they would sink almost instantly, making them completely impractical for large-scale farming. In 1892, Holt founded the Holt Manufacturing Company to tackle this exact problem. For years, he experimented with ways to make tractors more useful to farmers. Finally, in 1904, he struck gold. Instead of wheels, Holt mounted his tractor on continuous tracks. This design spread out the machine's weight and allowed it to crawl across soft soil without sinking. It was a breakthrough so dramatic that it would forever change the future of farming and construction. A photographer watching one of Holt's early tests compared the machine's movement to a caterpillar crawling across the ground. The name stuck, and the Caterpillar tractor was born. The first Caterpillar sold for $5,500, around $185,000 in today's money. It wasn't cheap, but it was revolutionary. Farmers quickly saw the benefits, and Holt's invention started to spread. It wasn't long before the world would find another, even bigger use for Caterpillar's tracked machines. When World War I erupted in 1914, the demand for heavy-duty equipment skyrocketed. Holt's Caterpillar tractors proved invaluable to the war effort, hauling supplies, artillery, and troops across the muddy and uneven battlefields of Europe. Their design even inspired early versions of the military tank, a machine that would go on to define modern warfare. But when the war ended, Holt faced a new kind of battle competition. Farmers returning home preferred tractors made by the CL Best Gas Traction Company, run by Clarence Leo Best. Best's tractors were lighter, more efficient, and often cheaper. Farmers saw them as more practical than Holt's heavier machines. The rivalry between Holt and Best turned ugly. The two companies clashed in court, spending over $1.5 million in legal fees, a staggering amount in the early 20th century. At the same time, sales were slipping, and when Benjamin Holt passed away in 1920, his company was left without its visionary leader. Holt Manufacturing was on the brink of collapse. But just when it seemed like the end, a massive opportunity appeared. In 1921, the United States government passed the Federal Highway Act, allocating $1 billion for road construction. Suddenly, the future wasn't just in farming, it was in building the modern world. Roads, bridges, and highways would need machines that could move dirt, level land, and handle massive loads. Recognizing this shift, Holt pivoted toward construction machinery. And in 1925, Holt Manufacturing merged with its old rival, the CL Best Gas Traction Company. Together, they formed the Caterpillar Tractor Company. This merger didn't just save Holt, it created a brand new giant. The rivalry that once threatened both companies had transformed into a partnership that would dominate the global stage. Caterpillar's first official logo featured a playful, wiggly version of the word caterpillar, and its machines were painted battleship gray. It wasn't flashy, but it marked the start of something huge. By 1928, Caterpillar had already built an extensive dealer network, with 82 dealers in the United States and 58 more internationally. The company was expanding fast. The early 1930s brought innovation after innovation. Caterpillar released the Auto Patrol, its first motor grader, followed by its very first diesel engine, nicknamed Old Betsy. The company also made a branding decision that would stick forever, painting all their equipment bright highway yellow. The color wasn't just striking, it made the massive machines more visible and safer on work sites. But no company was safe from the Great Depression. Caterpillar's sales collapsed, plummeting from $45 million to just $1.6 million. Many companies went bankrupt during these years, and Caterpillar came dangerously close. What saved them? An unlikely source: the Soviet Union. During the 1930s, the USSR was undergoing massive industrialization, and they needed machines, lots of them. Caterpillar filled the orders, keeping its factories alive at a time when domestic demand was almost non-existent. Once again, Caterpillar had survived. By the 1930s, Caterpillar was already leaving its mark on history. In 1933, Caterpillar machines played a key role in constructing the Golden Gate Bridge, one of the most iconic engineering feats of the 20th century. When World War II broke out, Caterpillar's role expanded dramatically. Their machines became essential to the Allied war effort, building roads, carving out airstrips, and moving mountains of earth to prepare for battle. Caterpillar's bulldozers and tractors were so vital that the company became synonymous with wartime construction. After the war, Caterpillar was no longer just an American company. It was global. Subsidiaries opened in the United Kingdom and Australia, and by 1948, Caterpillar equipment was being used in India's massive Bhakra Dam project. Wherever there was heavy construction, Caterpillar was there. The post-war boom fueled Caterpillar's rapid expansion. The 1950s saw its machines and projects across the world, from Olympic venues to Antarctic expeditions. In 1965, Caterpillar acquired the Tow Motor Corporation, adding forklifts to its lineup. Just 2 years later, they unveiled the Block C logo, a bold symbol that cemented their modern corporate identity. The 1970s brought further upgrades, global dealer programs, and a critical branding change. Caterpillar machines switched to their now iconic Caterpillar yellow paint. The color became a symbol of reliability and strength across the globe. But Caterpillar wasn't done growing. The next decades would bring even bigger shifts. The 1980s marked Caterpillar's diversification. They expanded into industrial turbines and launched the Certified Rebuild program, which allowed old machines to be taken apart, restored, and returned to customers as good as new. In 1986, Caterpillar Tractor Company officially became Caterpillar Inc. But the company wasn't without controversy. In the late 1990s, Caterpillar was rocked by a series of major labor strikes. Workers protested wages and conditions, leading to tense standoffs that damaged the company's reputation. At the same time, Caterpillar was modernizing. They acquired engine makers like Perkins and MWM, launched cat rental stores, and even opened the cat parts store online, a sign of things to come in the digital era. In the 2000s, Caterpillar refined its focus. The company sold off its agricultural division to double down on mining and construction machinery. The strategy paid off. In 2011, Caterpillar made one of its biggest moves ever, the $8.8 billion acquisition of Bucyrus International, a global mining equipment leader. With this purchase, Caterpillar secured its position as the dominant force in mining machinery. But with power came scrutiny. In 2018, Caterpillar faced controversy over tax disputes with the IRS, along with growing criticism of its environmental impact. At the same time, the company was branching into lifestyle branding, launching cat-branded stores, workwear, and even an official cat app in 2019. Caterpillar was no longer just a machinery company. It was a global brand recognized everywhere. Fast forward to today, and Caterpillar is still at the top of its game. The company generates nearly $67 billion in annual sales, operates lifestyle stores in over 100 locations worldwide, and maintains partnerships with governments and Fortune 500 companies alike. Beyond profits, Caterpillar has also built a reputation for humanitarian work. Their machines have been used in disaster recovery efforts worldwide, from the aftermath of the San Francisco earthquake to humanitarian projects with the Red Cross. And as global pressure grows for sustainable practices, Caterpillar has pledged to focus on cleaner energy, efficiency, and long-term resilience. The story of Caterpillar is not just about machines. It's about resilience in the face of collapse, strategic reinvention during crises, and the ability to adapt while competitors faded into history. While countless startups rise and fall in just a few years, Caterpillar has stood firm for more than a century, shaping the modern world one project at a time. From bridges to highways, battlefields to disaster zones, Caterpillar's machines are everywhere, and their legacy is still being written. So what do you think? Which company's story should we cover next? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the giants that built our world.